This is Black Market Leadership, the underground resource for disruptors and status quo breakers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Market Leadership. I am very excited today. We have Michael F. Schein, the author of The Hype Handbook. And audience, really enjoying this book. And I think we have a really great conversation. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well, Kevin. I am currently talking to you from Philadelphia, where I don't know if this is at all on video, but I'm in an 8-year-old's room because I'm staying with my sister. So I'm in my niece's room. So if you see a little tinkly chandelier and pink wallpaper, that's why.
Oh, see, I thought that was your creative quarters. I thought that's where you do all your writing.
No, but I'm getting inspired. I'm really comfortable here. She has her own bathroom. This kid lives the life, and a desk. That's kind of nice.
So your book came out 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, around 2 years, maybe 2.5 years ago.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about this book because hype, man, when I hear the word hype, I have a lot of images in my head. I'm sure the audience does as well. But I want to talk to you about the book, some lessons in the book, about hype itself, and about writing. I'm fascinated with writing. I know my audience is as well. So let's do this. Before we get into the book, give us some of your background.
Gosh, I don't know if we have enough time. I mean, we only have an hour. The very short story, and I've told this to a lot of people, and I don't know if they believe it or not, but I had no desire to be in business. In fact, the idea of owning a business or being involved in business I was allergic to it. You know, most of the people in my family were involved in business. It sounded very boring. I remember being a little kid and hearing lots of things about taxes and mortgages and numbers and finding it horrible. So I wanted to be involved in the arts and writing in particular. I always, people told me I had some talent. It's what I like to do. I wanted to write novels. And then as I got older, I got really interested in songwriting. But the short version is I made a go at that. I moved to New York when I was like 22, and I was more into the songwriting music part at that time, and started a band, and we got a little bit of attention, but it's pretty hard to make it in that field. But I think most of the attention we got was because we had this sort of punk rock attitude of causing benevolent mischief, and we used to call it hyping up a show. So we used to sell out this place, Arlene's Grocery, a lot, which is kind of a famous place. And we would do all kinds of crazy things to get attention. So, fast forward a little bit, that fell apart. I got a corporate job that was meant to be very temporary. I'm a hard worker. I'm probably not a dummy. So I started to thrive there, and I got used to the money and the security. And 8 years later, I was a vice president of solution development. And I remember I got a bonus and a raise on one day. I solved this big problem for them. And I met my girlfriend at the time, this was a while ago, for dinner. And she said, why so glum? And I said, well, I got a bonus and a raise today. And she said, oh, that's fantastic. I said, I'm a loser. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm doing the exact opposite of anything I ever wanted to do. So it was a very brass tacks industry. I learned a lot in the first 3 years, but after that, it was pure inertia. So I don't know, that was a turning point. I eventually left, and I was going to go on my own as a what they call a demand generation copywriter. It's a kind of marketing writer in a very niche space. And I was good at it, but I couldn't really drive business. I was really bad, ironically, at getting new clients. And I had a year's worth of savings, and I was burning through it and getting very nervous. And then I walked past the club one day, just randomly, because New York's a small city. Weirdly, it's the biggest city in the country, but Manhattan is very on top of each other. So I walked past that club, and I just remembered how good I used to be at marketing, but we never called it marketing, And I was reading all these marketing books and taking all these courses about search engine optimization and leads and sales funnels. And I had become this adult, this grown-up, and I forgot that what should be called marketing should be about getting people very excited and moving them. But marketing kind of has become this thing where it's like, what buttons do you push on the technology, And so I decided I wasn't going to be a marketer anymore. I was going to be a hype artist, the way I was with the band. And I started doing some antics, and we can talk about that. But I started to get clients for the writing business. That turned into an agency. that turned into the Hype Handbook, that turned into a consultancy and agency. And I became a business person, my worst nightmare, but I like it a lot.
I I love your story, and I had to on a personal level as I'm reading this, and especially with your example of Alice Cooper, and I'm gonna ask you to explain Alice Cooper's manager's his little his hype tactic. I'm a I've been in business since 2005. Business is good, but I like the creative part. I think you do too.
Yeah,
and I'm really creative. And one of my favorite, I don't know what you call inspirations, is not in business. Well, it's Glenn Danzig. I'm a big Danzig fan as an artist and as a creative. And Saturday, I saw the Misfits live.
I love the Misfits. That's very cool.
Waited 25 years, and Michael, every man, woman, and child had that crimson ghost. I was like, what marketing? So I'm reading your book, and you're talking about rock and roll, talking real life, the creative element. So this is why I'm so excited to talk to you. So can I ask, how old are you?
I'm 46 as of July 8th. And I guess that we're recording this on July 21st. So I just turned 46.
Well, okay. Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm 46 as well. So I want the audience to realize it's never too late. It's never too late to find what you're really, really good at.
It's kind of scary when you reach that age where people are using you as the example of why it's never too late. It used to be like you're the young buck. You know what I mean? Now 46, it's never too late.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And for the audience here, get this book. I mean, I love how you transition from, corporate America to being a hype artist. This book is fantastic. So for the audience here, I judge a book usually on three things. Is it valuable? Are there valuable lessons? Yes. Michael has some great lessons. Is it interesting? Man, Michael, you have great examples of your own life that's, very personable, but you also have so many historical examples. I mean, from Alice Cooper's manager to, going back to the days of Jesus. It spans everything. So there's history and it's readable. Michael, it's so readable that I'm really wondering that your first draft, did you have 2 to 3 times the size of this book? Because it's so condensed, it's so potent, like you hit the point every sentence. And I'm like, oh boy, it took a while to write this because it's so crisp and clean.
Thank you. That means a lot. I think I still think of myself, despite the fact that I make my living running what's essentially a marketing agency, although we do it our own way. I think for me, everything goes back to writing. I mean, that's what I've always wanted to do. So when I set out to write this book, and thank you for noticing this, I didn't want to just write a book because people in the thought leadership space and the business world need a book, which is legitimate, but I wanted to write a good book. I mean, that was meaningful to me. I was very obsessed with this topic. I've been writing about it in Inc. and Forbes and Fortune for years and years. So I edited the heck out of it. I mean, I have a process where maybe more like a novelist, I really I call it my vomit draft. I really kind of try to tap into my subconscious and just get everything out. And then I think of it as a craft and I try to hone it. And that was a huge compliment. And I think one of the biggest compliments that I got about the book was from a close friend who we were sitting around and they had read the book. And they've known me since high school. And they said, when I read your book, it felt like you were just sitting around with me like we are right now. And the reason that was such a compliment is because you don't get that effect by just spewing stuff out. You get it by crafting the thing. I think people are like, I'm going to write conversationally. So they just sort of like turn in their first draft. And that's probably the best possible way to make sure something sounds unnatural, because writing and speaking are two different things. So thank you for that very fine compliment.
I call it the knife through butter test. It's all AKA the Stephen King test. Can I read this, understand it, and not have to go back? And I don't think I've gone back once. And you're right. I mean, you're talking about you have, again, for the audience, he has a myriad of examples. I mean, spanning 2,000 years, but they're interesting. And he gets to the point, doesn't belabor, gets to the point. And man, so I got to tell you, reading this, I read books to learn how to write myself. And I'm reading this like, oh shit, I have to go back and rewrite mine now.
I got to do some it's a big compliment. Thank you. Okay. And it's funny, I want to just chime in if that's okay, that there's a reason that the examples go back so far. I wanted to really make the point that if you want to drive attention to whatever you're selling and get people highly emotional, which is what marketing should be, but we've lost that meaning of marketing. So I've thrown the word in the trash and replaced it by hype. You don't want to focus first on the newest technology. You don't want to say, oh, Threads is out, I got to master Threads. What you want to realize is that human beings have been human beings 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, and the same things that drive us back then. So like Virgil, the guy who wrote the Aeneid, which is one of the great works of Western literature, he was commissioned to write that by the Emperor Augustus because Augustus stole the government, right? So he wanted to legitimize himself as going all the way back to the early founders of Rome, and it worked. Now, the difference is they used papyrus. So it was much slower for those ideas, not papyrus or whatever, vellum or papyrus, whatever they use to cycle. Now we have threads, but you don't want to start with following the bandwagon and jumping on the technology. You want to think, how can I tap into these ancient human desires and drives that aren't going anywhere? And you'll be much better off trying to get an audience around your ideas if you start there and then pick the right technology base to that. So I just wanted to say it wasn't just because it was fun to go all the way back, although it was. I just wanted to make a point that these are really timeless principles.
Oh, totally agree. And especially in my industry, in leadership industry, I actually have my own internal scale of innovation. And a lot of people in my industry, they write books about the personal observations, and then they make generalizations. But no, that's a dime a dozen. But what you've done is you put your personal observations in, and then you put the history and you show the universality to it. Like you made a case. It's not just how do you know you're right living in this culture? Well, you went 2,000 years and showed those threads. So no, that's why I thought it was extraordinarily smart to do that, because you could see the commonalities. Real quickly, what is hype?
So I have my own definition for hype that I'm trying, that I think I've done a decent job of getting to stick, although we have farther to go. But I'm well aware that the word hype has negative connotations. For most people, it means kind of blowing a lot of smoke and, putting up a lot of smoke and mirrors around stuff that doesn't have real value. But I define it differently. I define hype as any set of activities that gets a large number of people highly emotional, so that they'll take the action that you want them to take. And the reason that I feel, and it can be any action, it can be a horrible action or a wonderful action. It's amoral. It's neither moral or immoral. And the reason I feel justified in using that definition is, and you can probably tell I'm a music fan just like you, but hip hop has been using it that way for 50 years. That the word hype in the world of hip hop has always been considered a positive. They always had a hype man in older rap groups and things like that, or when they're excited about something, they'll say, oh, that's really hype. And the reason I believe that is because it's really easy to have these sort of arbitrary beliefs about the way things ought to be done if you grew up with resources and opportunities. But, rap is from the poorest zip code in the United States. It's from the South Bronx, and its greatest practitioner arguably is now a billionaire. And that comes from this idea that no one is handing us attention. No one is handing us the limelight. So we need to do what it takes and use the trash to make treasure. If we don't have musical instruments, we're going to use old records. If we don't have an advertising budget, we're going to get big Wu-Tang yellow stickers and stick them on every lamppost in Staten Island. So I think that hip hop model of sort of creating something beautiful out of your limitations is a really beautiful thing. And I wish more people would have that sort of mindset.
I think one of the most interesting counterintuitive elements is, as you said, hype is really there to help you invoke strong emotions. But from your work, and I think this is genius, it's really based on being objective about your environment, about knowing what the need is. If you go out there and say just invoke emotions for that, for your subjective sake, you could, you might just fall on your face. But if you can find an objective real need and get people to do it, that's the secret to success, right?
100%. I always tell people, this is not the same as being a troll. This is not the same as being a con artist. I mean, first of all, you need a moral filter, but it's not just that. It's this idea that no press is bad press is ridiculous. I mean, if you get the wrong kind of attention at the wrong time, you could destroy your career. And in the age of social media, you can destroy your life. But you said it perfectly. It's a function of finding the being very clear-eyed about the environment you live in. You know, there's a lot of talk now, and I empathize with this. It's okay to work to change the system, you know, but there's a lot of talk now about, you know, I don't mean this from a political point of view at all, but this idea of privilege, right? Like this idea that like, if you don't have privilege, you should talk about that a lot, and you should think about that a lot. And I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm really not. I think there's some value in that. But I also think that if you tried to use that approach in a game of poker, you would lose every hand. If every time you got bad cards, you said, oh, come on, you know, this just isn't the right way. This isn't the way it should be. People might feel bad for you, but they'd be happy to take your money. So, you know, what the good poker player does is they look at their hand and they say, okay, how can I work with this? Can I bluff? Can I fold? Can I wait for something better later? Can I turn my weakness into a strength? So, you know, because of my position around the board. So this isn't a moral judgment. I think changing the system is valuable, but I also think if you can be clear-eyed about your environment and turn some of your weaknesses into strengths, that can be also very valuable.
So, okay. So I have I guess it's a question of the times. I feel like we live in I'm sure people have said this before, you know, decades before, but I think we live in a flash of the pan society. Boom, boom. You know, it's instant gratification. I mean, we're saturated with instant gratification. And I'm curious for you, as a hype expert, how do you wrestle helping your clients get real hype, knowing that people are saturated with hype everywhere, supposed hype everywhere? How do you overcome that obstacle, or is it an obstacle?
One of the cores of what we do with clients, to the point where we even have an exercise based around it, is the concept of turning your perceived weaknesses into strengths. And that runs through the book as well. So, for example, I would write down, I mean, this is something people can do if they're listening, write down all of the things that you perceive as putting you in a disadvantage. So one is, okay, let's say you're a leadership consultant, right? That's a very crowded space. So I know someone who was very successful at creating online courses, but she started out doing a course on restoring vintage trailers. There's like no competition in that, right? So she was able to dominate that market and then move up. You're in a market where, and you've done well, but it's a completely saturated market. So you could just say, okay, I have no chance. I'm oversaturated, but you can write that down as a weakness. I mean, we can do this now, you know, and before I do this, let me set some context. You know, Andy Warhol, who I use a lot, who is a wonderful hype artist, he had a lot of quote unquote weaknesses, right? So like he was pathologically shy. He was balding at a very early age. So someone might say, well, you can't be a balding, pathologically shy public celebrity. That's absurd. Well, what did he do? He made his obvious wig that covered his baldness his signature. People don't even know what his face looked like. They know that silver wig. His shyness, people would say to him, why do you paint soup? And they expected some big diatribe, and he would like look at the floor and say, I like soup, and walk away, and the press would go crazy. He took the weakness. It's like that last scene in 8 Mile, you know, the Eminem movie. He turned his weaknesses into a strength. So let's do it together. Your weakness is, I hope this works, or else I might fall on my face. But the weakness of where you're at right now is that leadership is a completely oversaturated market. What's the buried strength in that? If that was what, you know, how do you flip the script on that? The way that Eminem said, you know, I was born in a trailer park, and that actually gave him street cred compared to, if anyone's seen that movie, compared to the kid who went to private school. So the fact that you're playing in one of the most saturated markets on the internet, What's the strength? How do you flip that into a strength?
I can. See, we did not plan this. I can tell you how. My book coming out. It's called Strength and Chaos. It's the first book to ever measure chaos for leaders and teams. So there are the only book that has reputation in chaos was written 40 years ago. 40. So yeah. So it's enormously saturated. I'm going to be the chaos expert. I'm going to show you how your teams.
Amazing. So you book yourself on 100 podcasts and you lead with, you know what's crazy? I'm the dumbest guy in the world. I picked the leadership consulting industry. I picked the most chaotic industry in the world, guys. What a fool I am. Fortunately, I'm a chaos expert.
Oh,
isn't that cool? So wouldn't you? And the argument that becomes, you want to buy from the guy who was successful in the most chaotic market in the world. You're the chaos expert. You make order through chaos. And how do you know how to do that? Because you did it for yourself.
Yes.
You're in the most chaotic market in the internet. I mean, there are people in the leadership space. Hey, by the way, I'm a leadership consultant. I wasn't 2 minutes ago, but I just said I am. You know what I mean? They're like,
yes,
anyone can be a leadership consultant. That's
totally
pure chaos. But you've systematically figured out a way to survive in the most chaotic environment. Why wouldn't someone buy for you? So that's what I mean.
I love it.
You can sit there and say, oh, we can't stand out today. There's too much this, there's too much that. Or you can say, how do I use that to my advantage? Or, my company is called Microfame Media. That's another thing. It's true. If you try to get famous on the internet, you're going to fail. That's like throwing a bottle into the Pacific Ocean and hoping it washes on shore. But what if you found your equivalent of the vintage trailer thing, some space where if you crack the 40 other influencers that are in there and get them to sing your praises, you'll become as big as Elvis ever was when in the age of 3 networks, but in your small little niche. And that's very possible now. So there's a million ways to work around that. You just have to be creative.
Okay. All right. Michael's company is Microfame Media. I should have said it earlier. And Michael, you're not going to send me an invoice for this because this was fantastic session.
I wasn't planning on it.
Oh, that's great. So, hey, if you're an entrepreneur or a thought leader, you want to be a thought leader, and you got something, you think you got something, you got to contact Michael here. This is great. I love this. Okay. All right. So now saying that, as I'm reading this, I took some notes and I realized something. Hype, I'm prior military, 6 years active duty Army. And I used to be a war planner. And I've realized, there's certain types of missions, assignments. Hype is a special type of assignment. Because to me, you say it's marketing. I think it's marketing on steroids. Niche, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, marketing is marketing. I that term has become completely obsolete because you have professional marketers who they'll talk to you about how many engagements they got on Instagram, but when you talk to them about, well, how did you get people on fire about what your client are selling, they kind of look at you like what are you talking about? We got engagements on Instagram. So I think the word marketing should go in the trash can. So yeah.
Totally. So I wrote down 3 things to me in my mind, and tell me what you think. I see there are 3 essential qualities that a person who wants to have hype, this person needs to have, or company or executive team, whatever. First, they have to be comfortable with confrontation. I think if you're going to put an idea out there, you got to be willing to defend it. 2,
that's true.
Self-confidence. You got to be willing to go out there and put your neck out there and say, I'm different. And 3, lots of energy. I feel like, I know, again, I'm not going to politics, but coming from coming to stay in New York, Trump, I think of Trump in 2016, who was going around, this guy, I don't know, he's 75 years old, place to speak, constantly on the move, constantly get that message out. I'm like, wow.
He's the best hype artist in the world. And I'm not going to tell you what my politics are because I don't think it's relevant.
Right.
But the guy knows how to get people emotional and get attention. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on where you're standing, but he's very good at that.
So that's why I have first, you have to have a lot of self-confidence to put your neck out. Two, you got to be willing to defend it, because I mean, I'm assuming if you're putting out a message that you're different from everyone else, you're probably gonna get some friction coming your way. And three, you got to have energy. You got to be willing to just continue pushing out. What do you think?
I agree with some pretty big caveats, and the caveats are that I think that those things are true, or at least the perception of them, but I think they can be cultivated. So actually, the reason I wrote this book is because I think the people who are natural hype artists, on average, are not good people, on average. And this is what I mean. I don't think that the strategies are bad. And I think a lot of good people have used them. Human beings are who human beings are. They react to what human beings react to. The problem is, the people who tend to be a little sociopathic or narcissistic look at other people as chess pieces. And so they don't have the same, you and I might say, I don't know, my stuff should really rise on its own merits, or I don't know, I don't want to put on a fake front, whereas, I don't know, I don't want to name names. I was on the verge of naming names, but certain people we know who are selling stuff that probably doesn't help the world too much, they go out there with massive self-confidence. So if you're somebody who, isn't like that naturally, and I'm not like that naturally. As I told you, I was bad at sales and marketing. So am I high energy? I don't know. I mean, I like nothing better than kicking back with a book. I don't really love frantic environments. Do I have self-confidence? I didn't used to. You know what I mean? I mean, I was a gawky young guy. I wasn't great at sports. I was pretty unconfident. And do I like confrontation? Well, I'm kind of punk rock. My heroes like to raise a ruckus, but at the same time, I like everyone to get along. So the question to me was, does that mean I'm doomed to fail? Or can I reverse engineer these strategies that people like Trump, Simon Sinek, Gary Vaynerchuk, and these are not all bad people.
Warhol.
They're just good hype. Warhol, Bowie, Shep Hyken, all these people, Shep Gordon, all these people, good, bad, and in the middle, depending on where you stand. Do you have to be natural at it? Do you have to have natural charisma, or can you engineer it? And I found out that you can engineer it. And one way you can reverse engineer it is there are principles that people react to, but you have to have the confidence. So how do you develop the confidence? One is be confident in an area you can be confident in. If you're not a naturally confident person, can you be confident of your point of view? And can you think with nuance, but present in black and white? So in other words, can I weigh all the issues while I'm making business decisions, but don't give personal caveats when you get out into the world? Say in a public, in a public appearance, just say, this is what's what, right? Energy. I don't know. Andy Warhol had energy, but he didn't seem like he had energy. He turned weakness into strength. He actually seemed very downbeat. And then confrontation, you don't have to be confrontational with people, but can you stand up for what you believe in? And can you learn to do that? So this was a lot. I hope I kept my politics out of it, because it's not about my politics.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. When I mentioned confrontation, again, even that has, I mean, being able to stand up. I mean, again, if you're going to do hype, you got to really, as you say, you got to show people this is to your benefit, get their buy-in, but you got to get something that's unique. You can't be in the saturated market. And just one quick example, you and I actually have another, relation. Well, we were both fans of Ayn Rand. Fountainhead had changed my life. I left my profession in the Army because of Rand. But I remember,
really?
My mother gave me the book, and I read it. I'm like, oh my God, get the hell out of the Army, do my own thing.
Wow.
But I remember once she was giving a presentation, and some jerk in the audience says, could you explain your philosophy on one leg? And everyone booed him, and she put her leg up, and she'd objective, metaphysics, objective reality, blah blah. It was great, but that's what I mean by confrontation, just being able to defend it. Because if you're going to put your position out there, your marketing position or your value, you're probably going to, if you have a dynamic market, like let's say leadership, I'm going to get left hooks and right hooks from everywhere. I just mean being able to stand up. This is why it's right. This is why I think they're wrong, and that's it.
if you're in business, especially in information business, and you don't believe that the other people in your space are doing or have opinions that are incorrect and that you don't have a better way to do it, please stay in your job until you feel that strongly about something. Because, like I said, I'm not a naturally confrontational person, but I will get up here and tell you that I think Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek's messages are harmful and that I have a better message, because it's my area of expertise. And that's why I went into business on my own. I saw these people who I thought were giving bad advice doing so well. And I said, I need to go out there and compete with that, because the world isn't being made a better place. Now, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. I just called Donald Trump a liar in front of somebody who just told me, you know what my politics are because I'm from New York. But I was willing to say that because it made a good example. And you can learn something about hype by looking at that guy. You know what I mean? Did I probably lose a few potential clients by saying it? Probably. But for the people, but for the people who understood what I was saying and can, sort of latch on to that firm point of view, maybe I made a few fans, but you can't please everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You probably strengthen your ties, with others. If you like this content and want to hear other things like it, head on over to the website at blackmarketleadership.com. That's blackmarketleadership.com. There you can subscribe to the podcast, and you can even create a free members profile